Morning, friends. Pastor Chuck Blair here. Great to have you joining me today as we continue on with our little lessons around gratitude going into Thanksgiving. And trying to do three of them. What are just three basic lessons? And these are hopefully offer a little insight and a little way to see gratitude differently. So we started off yesterday by shifting our view of gratitude around just the present and the events that led to it, to trying to think, how do we have a future orientation towards gratitude, and what do we know about the future? We know, like I know, always blessed, always broken, always shared. That seems to summarize the future that I know exists. There'll be some great things, there'll be some really hard things, and we'll get to share both. Be interesting to know what you think, in terms of what you truly know about the future. And we can have gratitude around that stuff, right? That somehow that all has meaning. May not have perfection, it may not have a meaning we understand here and now, but it all has meaning, and that there is a purpose to this life that we continue to work through. And that doesn't mean that all pain is purposeful. I want to be careful about that, because some things I think are just nearly impossible to ever be grateful for. In terms of tragic losses, etc. But so be it, right? And we can still continue to hold like that life is still good, even despite those tragic circumstances we might find ourselves in, which I think imagine all of us will find ourselves in. So what I wanted to do today was look at this interesting one, which is a second lesson, which is gratitude for anxious thoughts. Gratitude for anxious thoughts. And I imagine many of us deal, now not everyone, I certainly have met some people who anxiety is not really a big deal, and you could fit almost anything in there, a negative thought, a fearful thought. I wanted to particularly focus on anxiety, and how can we have gratitude around anxious thoughts? So I want to start out with this beautiful psalm that many of you know. So Psalm 139, and it's essentially a psalm thousands of years old. It's essentially saying God's going to be with you no matter what. It's sort of about the no matter whatness of God, and the no matter whereness of God. No matter whatness, no matter whereness. And that's really significant, that idea that God is with us through all these different things. So this is Psalm 139. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit up and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand on me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit, Lord? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there also. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. Oh, that's such beautiful stuff. And what's that all about? Well, that's the no matter whatness of God, the no matter whereness of God. And that means, again, that we can find God. And I think a way to even say finding God is finding gratitude. I don't know that they're all that different. I think when we find God, we find gratitude. When we find gratitude, we find God. And it's kind of interesting. So how would we hold that, like with these thoughts? Well, start out by understanding, and God's always with you, like regardless. And it says the whole way to heaven and the whole way to hell. Like wherever you find yourself in a day, whether it's just a hell of a day, God's there too. Or whether this was heaven, this was just such a heavenly day, God's there in both of those, holding us in both. So that's the first starting point. And from there, I think, folks, we can do this. So I actually tried this practice a couple of days ago, and it worked pretty well. Like many people, I seem to rise bolt awake at 3 a.m. with all these thoughts churning through my head. And a simple practice is this. A simple practice is to look at each one of those thoughts as they come up and just be grateful for what it's pointing to. Be grateful for what that anxious thought is pointing to. Now, if it's pointing to more catastrophizing, don't go there. Like that's hell, right? But oftentimes an anxious thought can point to what we really value the most. Think about that. This one counselor that I knew, he called it the golden finger. In other words, like it's the golden finger that points to right what we value the most. So say you're having anxiety around a relationship. Well, why are you having anxiety around relationship? Is you can answer that at a very surface level. But at a very big level, you have anxiety around relationships because you value relationships. You may have anxiety around work because maybe you value employment. Maybe you value a sense of useful service. You may have anxiety around one of your children. That's because you value your child. That's where to attach gratitude. So here's this anxious thought here, whatever that might be. Or again, if anxiety is not your your favorite challenge for the day, fit in whatever. Anxious thought, fearful thought, stressed thought, whatever that is. And then shift it a bit. One way to do a little turnaround on it is to go like, okay, so here's that anxious thought. I get it. I'm not going to say I don't have that anxious thought. I'm not going to say like, be gone, anxious thought. Yeah, good luck with that. What I can do is I can shift it slowly over here and be like, okay, so God's with me in this whole journey, heaven and hell. God's with me in this whole journey. I can find gratitude even here. And maybe the best I can do is just gratitude over what I value the most, because I really value this. I really value this. And it means a lot to me. And that's a different place to start. And that can slowly start to give us more and more of a perspective of gratitude. And again, gratitude, folks, is not just objective, it's subjective. It's not just looking at an event or a thing or a list, though all those things can be good. It's really trying to get the eyes to see with gratitude, the eyes to see with gratitude. To be a saint, famously said, is to base your life on gratitude, nothing more, nothing less. I love that idea, right? Just totally focused on gratitude. It's not Pollyannish, not saying hard things don't happen, but it means that we're going to hold this view of gratitude in our lives, including for the anxious parts. I remember a beautiful little share from Parker Palmer. So Parker Palmer is a Christian Quaker, and which is a beautiful combination. And he worked not far from here. He doesn't live in the Philadelphia area anymore, but he's a very famous author. Probably some of you are familiar with his work. And I was listening to him talk about depression, and he was just struggling with like really crushing depression. And he had a wonderful counselor. And what she told him is, she said, Parker, maybe this, what if you saw your depression as your friend? What if, again, I would say she's saying, what if you saw it with some gratitude? That's not exactly what she said, but that's the hint of it. What if you saw it as your friend? And so he goes on. I said, well, explain that. Like, how can that work? She had this beautiful analogy. She said, imagine the waves of life, right? You're down at the shore and there's these waves of life coming in, coming out, these waves of life. And maybe you can see depression as what is placing your feet deep in the sand so you have a place to stand in these waves of life. And I thought, that's beautiful. That is a beautiful concept. And I certainly wouldn't use that lightly. I wouldn't use that as a diagnostic tool or as a prescriptive tool for somebody really battling with a depression that may need medicated. But it does give you a slightly different view, right? Like, oh, so this depression, I can actually have some parts, not the whole thing, some parts that I'm grateful for because it's grounding me. Oh, there's this anxious thought. Oh yeah, there's this anxious thought. I can have a little gratitude around that anxious thought because it's actually reminding me of what I value the most. And then when we stick with what we value the most, oh boy, that's a beautiful place to start to live life from. So folks, like just think about that for today. Think about finding gratitude in strange places. And that's what the practice is. It's really trying to find gratitude in strange places and knowing that God's there to help you do that. Because again, that's seeing the world. I mean, really, folks, it is seeing the world for what it is. Because I believe in God's economy, like nothing's wasted. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that are just soul crushingly hard that we will never really come to terms with. That is true. And at the same time, we have a God where nothing's wasted. Like even the most challenging of circumstances, the pull of divine providence, the pull of God's love is always going to be pulling us towards heaven. It's always going to be pulling us towards a gentle place, a place where love wins, a more loving spot, a more meaningful spot. That's where it's all pulling. And that's not like saving heaven for a far off day. That's very much discovering heaven right now, even in the broken places, I might say. All right, friends. Well, I certainly hope that makes some sense to you. And and just thank you a ton for joining me this morning. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little little meditation, a little prayer, and a little blessing. And then we'll be taking a look at some comments on Facebook. You can either leave a comment on New Church Live's Facebook page or on my Facebook page if you're watching us live. And feel free to leave. Many people leave them throughout the day, and that's totally fine. Most people watch us asynchronously, which is great. It's just great to have you anytime you're joining us. And if these talks, a lot of people share them. If you have a friend, like, you're more welcome to share this stuff. Just this is not copyrighted or just for folks who are part of New Church Live. We do this as a service, just where together we have a conversation about these bigger parts of life. So with that, friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, friends, let's give a little cheery hello to folks here. See how everybody's doing. All right, let me just pull this up. Okay, get a look at our comments here. All right, let's take a look at what people have to share this morning. Marcia out there in Colorado, great to have you joining us this morning, Marcia. Hopefully it's not too chilly cold out there. Linda, good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Patricia, good morning. Katie, I got started on the book. It was really good. Thank you so much. Teresa, my dear friend, hope you're doing well up there in the Poconos. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. Katie writes, embracing with gratitude and allowing a calming of being with. Yeah, and isn't it fascinating, Katie, right? Like that phrase you have there, being with. That's so much part of it. And how do we bring the lens of gratitude to that whole concept of being with, which is interesting stuff. You just read and explored the message of the prayer I had read at the beginning of day 15 years ago that caused 2 compound fractures that nearly resulted in the removal of my left arm. That psalm was perfect preparation for anxious thoughts that unfolded. More and more experience of gratitude in the midst of huge challenge. Carl, that's beautifully said, right? And there's just, I love the line that struck me reading, like every time you read that psalm, right? It's a very famous psalm. Something different strikes people. And for me this time, it was this wonder, like, wow, God's with me through it all. Like, wow, it's both. It's with me through it all. And that's just such a different perspective to have. Mary writes, seeing anxiety as pointing to what we value is so spot on. And what we value can point us to other feelings, sadness or pain. So anxiety is just a surface mask to keep us from what lies within. when we peel back anxiety and go there, that is where we find God. Yeah, isn't that amazing, Mary? And I love. I mean, years and years and years ago, we had a wonderful uh, pastor, Shada Sullivan, and she was on Sermon Writing Team. I just remember the first time she said, "On God's economies, nothing's wasted." I thought, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Kathy, great to have you joining us this morning, and I hope you're doing well. My buddy Shannon out there in Austin, Texas is joining us. Great to see you joining us, Shannon. And Linda writes, anxiety is hard. Thanks for the insight. Gratitude is so helpful. Amen to that. And then let's just take a quick little peek here for anybody who has hopped on to my personal Facebook page. And we got a lot of comments on there. All right, let's take a quick look. Hold on, I got the wrong one there. Let's see if we can pull this one up here. Oh, it's not coming up there. All right, well, that's all right. We got one. So great to have you folks joining us. And God bless you. Have a great day, and work on finding gratitude in as many surprising places as you can today. Take care, friends. God bless.